I'm going to give everybody another minute, and then we can get rolling. It's going to be a very fast presentation, thank God. In the meantime, I may as well just get a little bit of rolling here. Some of you may every now and then consult the National Federation website, and we do a lot of press releases and et cetera. There's a great article in there for your local associations about.
You're going to come in as Capital Region.
Excuse me? There's an article in there that Julie Cochran wrote about mentoring track and field and cross-country officials. I think it'll be interesting if you or have a program like that. Just take a look at that article. It's a very nice thing that she did. Just another tidbit of news. Since the pandemic, the comeback of high school sports has been dramatic. It's the first time ever that participation in sports has passed the 8 million mark.
Recording
this meeting
in
is being recorded.
Good. We're being recorded.
Good morning, Tom. This is Todd Nelson.
Todd, I was looking for you. I have a PowerPoint I want to use. So what I have you, should I just click share?
I will.
What's
so
that?
I'm going to give you permission to share your screen.
Yes.
You should be all set. Try to share your screen right now. Yep.
Click. And what do I do? Where do I go? How do I do
Down on the bottom is, yeah, and then pick whichever screen you want to share.
That's the only one I see.
Yep, there you go.
And then I want to do this. Is that it? Is it showing up?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
So I am recording this, and then I will send the link to Bob Headwell tomorrow, and then he can distribute it out to all of your chapters.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'm going to make you the person in charge, Tom, as you always are. And
you're going to sneak off and have some coffee.
No, I already had that. Perfect timing.
All right, good.
Just got back from breakfast.
Okay. All right, folks, what I'm going to do is very quickly, and how do I do this? Start this, play from the start. There we go. Just quickly go over the track and field rule changes for 2025. And this was adopted in July at our meeting. We worked for 4 days straight in Indianapolis. Did a lot of cleaning up over the last 3 years. And some of you who have been around for a long time will see the progress over the past 10 years that our rule book has become very, very readable. You can look something up now and know where to find it. And when you go in there, and what we've been doing, I had 3 years I was on a committee, and our focus was to find out where in the text we needed to improve things to make this an easy book to use. So our goals, first of all, was to make the rule book more user-friendly, both for referees, for officials to use, for meet directors, and for athletes and coaches. You know, if I'm an athlete and I want to look up what the rule is, all I have to do is go to Rule 6. If I'm a shot putter, look in. Excuse me? Folks, if you can mute until I answer questions, be easy. Thanks. So, you know, I'm a coach or an athlete in a shot put, and I want to look up something. I just go to Rule 6, and it's all in there for me, the general rules and the specific rules. So that's our big goal, make the rule book user-friendly. All right, also, we made incremental changes to the rules, no dramatic changes to the rules. And we try to limit the rule change to things that make sense to problems that have already been identified at a national level. Okay, so any change we make, we want to make it applicable to every one of the member associations. Things are different in Wyoming than they are in New York. And if this problem exists everywhere, then it's something we can solve at a national level. All right, so we want to make sure, though, if we make a rule change, that it's applicable to everybody and that it can be enforced easily without any controversy and with consistency. The other changes, things we try to, so that they're similar to the other rule codes, like USA Track and Field, the NCAA, World Athletics, while maintaining NFHS's philosophy of encouraging educational and sportsmanship goals. All right, that's a primary goal. All right, here's the first and probably the most major of the rule changes, and it applies to track events. And it's Rule 576 about races not started in lanes or when two or more competitors are assigned to a single lane on a one-turn break. What it does, it adjusts the recall distance that the starters look for to the first 50 meters rather than the 100 meters that it was in the previous rule. The rationale is very, very simple. Starters oversee the recalling of races when something is unfair, and 50 meters is a suitable distance for determining whether or not the start is fair. In most races, athletes are at racing speed well before the 100-meter mark. And it actually happened in California State Championship last year. They put their they have a two-line California start and one-turn stagger, and they put their fastest guys in the up front mark, and they were way out front of the other less seeded group, and somebody fell at 99 meters, so they had to recall a race that had already really been well underway, and they showed it on film, and that was boom, just like that. We said, okay, let's go to 50 meters. It also happens to be consistent with a rule change the NCAA made, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, for the very same reason. So that's the major change in track rules. The recall is made at 50 meters. The mark is 50 meters now. No longer do you have to try to watch around 100 meters, trying to look through people in a high jump pit and all these other things that made it difficult sometimes to even observe. Okay. In Rule 5 track events, Rule 5 and Rule 10 about relays. Section 11 is clearly about relay infractions, and Section 10 just says relays. Well, there was stuff in there that we're describing what infractions are, but without penalty. So what they've done is they clarified that, and they're reorganized so it's easy to use. You want to see what an infraction is, it's going to be clearly stated in Rule 511 this year. And that's going to be easier for officials to recognize that. All right, 513.3, and the old rule was it's for infractions for races not run in lanes. How do you determine when an athlete leaves on the straightaway? You've seen some of these in situation books. When is it a disqualification? And people are saying, well, if there's no advantage gain, back and forth, it's clear now. It's how to determine whether an infraction happened when the athlete leaves the track on the straightaway. And it has been clarified. All right, field events. We found a lot of people were confused about, the time limits, consecutive jumps, even though that chart did wonders for making things more consistent. But what they've done now is say, let's make it even clearer in the book. So the officials have guidance about this one is a new rule. It's about when you warn a person when their time limit's about to expire. The change gives athletes notification that, hey, you've only got 15 seconds left or whatever you choose, the games committee chooses to give a warning. And they are emphasizing that, yes, you should warn the athlete when they're running out of time. Method, that's up to the games committee. Are we going to use a visual clock? Are you going to use a yellow flag? Are you just going to point to them? Whatever the process is, they want a definite signal to the athlete that your time is running out. It's time for you to run down the runway and get it done. Okay, the chart, which in last year's book was on page 41. It gives you the individual events, how many people left in the competition, etc. There was a lot of things that were quite clear in that. So now there's going to be some notations in it. And it's one of those things you'll be able to actually copy it and put it on the back of a clipboard, no matter what field event you're working, and it'll give you the answer to it. It'll give clarity and can be easily used and clarify the time limits of competitors throughout the competition, whether there's one person left, 3 people left, 2 people left, it's going to be in there. Rule 632, which deals very similar there. This is about breaking ties, and it deals with jump offs. Now, you've had a jump off in vertical events sometimes where the people exited at different heights. And everybody says, so what do you do? This guy, he made 6'2", the other guy made 6'1", but because of passing and all these other things, they're still in a dead tie. Where do you go in the next progression? You can't go down if they did the thing. So they didn't tie necessarily at the same height. So the jump off they're saying is go to the next height in the progression and see if they can make that. And then you proceed with the jump up procedure that we've done in the past. But if there are people at different heights, jack it up in the next height in the progression. And they'll probably all fail and you start all over again. Is that clear to everybody? I think it'll be clear when you read it. All right, 682. There's a lot of people, that what's an active flight, what's a continuing flight. People use the jargon of 5 alive and straight through. It just clarifies the definitions of the two. Again, when the rewrites and all these things are essentially to make sure that everybody is clear as to what things are. So it clarifies the definition of what an active flight is, the 5 alive, or what continuing flight, meaning going straight through without any, whoa, where'd I go? Okay. All right, the next one is 6922. There has been, you go different places, the placement of the high jump, the high jump equipment gets moved around frequently, or, you don't have to worry about the wind direction so much. But what happens if you go to a place and you got to set up 2 of them and you want to establish standard placement? Where should the high jump crossbar and standards be placed? What they did is they established a standard placement so that there's a standard distance. You can look it up in the book. If you're just assembling a high jump pit, you know exactly from site to site that there's going to be consistency involved. And the same old procedures, if you are the high jump official, you're going to box out where those standards are and make sure that they don't move from place to place. The other thing is the position of the landing system. That's going to be a special emphasis in the rules. And there will be an article in the pre-meet notes that'll be coming out. And again, emphasizing to officials that the thing moves during the competition. Every now and then you have to adjust it to keep the conditions safe. That'll be addressed in the points of emphasis. All right, there a lot of, over the past couple of years, we find mistakes in the rules, or, we read something and said that doesn't make any sense. So they've made editorial changes to some rules in here that just makes things clearer. And the list of the rules that'll be changed. When you get the new book, you'll see these. Remember, they always highlight editorial changes and new rules in gray so that you see what is due, what is different, etc. And we got all of those things in Rule 3 and Rule 4 and Rule 6. All right, the points of emphasis. And I just mentioned this. Managing vertical jump landing system. They're going to have a guide in there. So when do you adjust the thing? When do you pull it back? And again, giving guidelines to officials. Put a piece of tape down so it ends up in the same spot. So when you see it's moving away, you can bring it back and manage this to contain and keep a safe possible condition for the athletes that are landing. The other point of emphasis is excused athletes. One of the things that our rules provide for is a lot of flexibility for kids that are doing more than one event. But as we all know, kids can be like water. They always try to find leak. So, I want to, the famous thing is, the guy's in the high jump and he leaves to go run the 2-mile run, and he doesn't come back until the bar's at 8 feet, things like that. They want to make sure that before when you arrive at a meet, everybody understands what the games committee has decided for excused athletes, what's the system for doing this, and the protocol for that particular meet, and everybody knows what it is. I know at our state events, we've done a very, very good job, even offering proxy kids to sit at the clerk so that kids can go back out and do their long jump or whatever it is. But there's going to be a point of emphasis in the rule that we pay attention to that and make sure everything is consistent. The third point of emphasis will be the time limits in the vertical jumps. When last year they said, okay, I'm the last guy in the competition, but I entered a pole vault, I'm the last guy and I haven't vaulted yet, I still have 1 minute for that first attempt. Then the rest of that stuff kicks in. Well, it became a discussion just in general about, what the limits are, if there's 2, et cetera. And we clarified that in the chart as well, but we want to make sure everybody understands it so that it's not, nobody is catered to, that everything is fair for all athletes involved. There is also, by the way, there's going to be a new officials manual this year done by an outside vendor. It is fabulous. I really looked through it, and it's very well done. And the fourth point of emphasis is about false starts. Now, last year we made some minor changes in the false start rule that apparently a lot of people just didn't understand. False starts have not changed. The only thing that changed was the fact that we were allowing some bumping and all those other things, not to disqualify a kid, to become more preventive at the start, not be in a hurry to fire the gun because we want to make sure nobody false starts. Let's just let a fair thing happen. And if you see movement, call them up. But forward motion before the gun that results in you leaving the blocks is a false start, always was, always will be. And the emphasis is, just nothing really has changed. Just do the job, be patient, be preventive, and things will be fine at the starting line. That's essentially, that's it for rule changes, folks. That's, I told you there wasn't much, and there really isn't a lot. And hopefully, when you read the rule book, it's going to be very, very easy to follow. Okay, any questions related to any of that?
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
It's Sydney.
Yes.
Could you go over a little more in depth with the high jump scenario? Is it a situation where, let's say that a kid jumps his first jump and then passes on to the next event? Passes on to the next height instead of taking the next 2, and he ends up in a jump off?
In other words, he's passed. I don't understand what you're asking.
He takes an attempt at, let's say, 6 feet. Then he passes his next 2 in order to have something available for, let's say, 6'3".
Okay.
Is that the scenario where you would have him possibly in a jump off and have to move up the height?
If he's tied with everybody else, yes.
Okay.
That's it's been. There was recorded. They keep track of this stuff. I was impressed. I think in 6 state championships they had jump offs where kids finished at different heights, and they were saying, well, where do we put the bar? We just lower it down, or everybody gets an attempt at the last one. Well, no, the other kid. So what they're doing, they said, up the progression, just add another challenge before we start dropping the bar.
I have a question
Anything
regarding,
else?
yeah,
Yeah.
Tommy, give me, all right. A question about assist animals. I'm beginning to see more and more about animal
what?
reports coming out to meets.
Say this again? An assist animal
Yeah. Hit a
for an
guy that,
athlete?
yeah,
The only assist the athlete can have is if they are blind or have a special ed thing where they have a running guide.
Good.
Why does an animal have to be involved?
guy brought a dog to a cross country meet for his
Well-
athlete.
That's a rule that's not governed by national federation. That's a state association rule. They're going to allow guide dogs. I don't know. It's not in the rule book, so it's not my purview.
It's the first time I heard.
Tom, it's Bob Headwell.
Bob?
Tom, what I would say on something like that, if someone needs some special circumstances, they should come with a note from Bob Zayas.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say it's a state association thing.
Yeah.
It's not a let's go to the referee of the meet and play for sympathy. If you have a note, fine. But first of all, what is that, a guide dog? That we're just
It was a service dog. And I
a
told.
service dog. Now, what happens if the service dog interferes with another athlete?
I know, that's why I'm bringing it up. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, if there's a note from Dr. Zayas that says it's permissible, fine.
Yeah, a service animal is different than a guide dog.
Yeah,
There's a difference. Service, I believe, is comforting psychologically, and it doesn't
Yeah.
actually physically assist you during the event.
Well, that's what I figured. So I did not allow it. No paper, no run.
and the dog actually is running with the athlete.
That was the thought pattern. The
Well,
parents showed me.
what if I wanted a goat or a horse? Come on, this is getting out of control.
There's an answer in the chat. Look in the chat.
Chat, where's chat? Boom.
ADA allows a service dog for medical reasons.
Yes, that I
But
understand.
The medical reasons, you can't have emotional support service
No,
dog.
it's for seizures and other things.
Correct.
That makes sense, and I've allowed that. That's
They
as a matter
still
of fact,
should-
that's the only time I've ever had a thing about with a service animal was that it was a dog, and it was there in case this kid went into an epileptic seizure. He knew how to exactly to get people and stuff like that.
Agreed.
Anything else? I tried to make this boring thing stimulating, but not much when you only have the one major change. Is there anything that needs further explanation? I think when you see these, we really went through this rule book to try to make it as clear as possible. And if anything else, the last 3 years, that's one thing they've done beautifully. I know I officiate a couple other sports. Swimming, try to find something in the swimming rule book. It's impossible.
Tom,
I have a question.
Yes.
About
Who has the floor? I have two people asking questions.
Oh, well, this is Helene.
Helene, go ahead.
Okay, two things. The first thing is about the proxy. Once in the pole vault at the Armory, there were 4 girls who were in pole vault, and the bar, they hadn't jumped at this height. And I knew they could not jump at the next height. And the 4 of them were on the relay team, and they were in the clerking area. And Takashi mentioned it to me. He said, these 4 girls haven't jumped yet, and I'm about to go up, and they're going to have trouble at the next height. I went into the clerking area. I was their proxy. I told them to go jump quickly and come back, and that's exactly what happened. So I want to support your idea of a proxy. You can find someone on your team to go or whatever in a situation like that. The girls went, jumped. The first one who cleared came back. I was free to go. The other thing I want to raise is about the high jump. Well, there are 2 issues about the high jump. One about you have, and you know I do high jump all the time. Okay. So I'm not at the low height. At the low height, if someone isn't back and they miss the height, well, too bad. They just have to jump at whatever height when they come back. But I now have maybe 3 athletes left or 4 athletes left. We're at a high height. And one athlete who is he's on the track. So he goes to run. The other 3 jump and clear or miss or whatever it is, and he's on the track. What I have done, and I don't know if this is the right thing to do, I have looked at the track. If I see that boy or girl actually running on the track, I wait till the race is finished and see if he comes right back. If he comes right back,
that's admirable, but that obviously you're contained indoor.
I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I don't want. Yes, indoor. Yeah, where I can see.
You're doing what's fair. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you're lucky because you're in a contained situation. Outdoors, that may not happen.
Outdoors, you can't see, but an indoor, because you know how busy some of those Armory track meets are. If I see him running on the track, I wait for him. And one other thing, which I would like you to address, when I do the PSAL meets, not in the Armory, the outdoor meets, and we go places, they really do not have adequately certified high jump mats. You know that. There's no extension in the middle. It's straight across. It's flat. They can't afford to get a real one. To complicate it even further, they have these old standards with really huge bases. So when you set your mats up, the space between the crossbar and the mat is really not safe. What would you do in that situation?
You go to the referee. You go to the referee. If the referee deems that the facility is not safe, it's over.
Well, they always deem it safe. So, in those situations.
And you go with the flow, but write a note that you're not responsible for their bad judgment. Note it on the score sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Note it on the score sheet.
I just wanted confirmation of that because I see that happening a lot. Okay, thank you. I'm through.
And I have to, Helene's, some of you may be shocked, but that happens a lot down there because they're putting together whatever they can just to keep the program existing, unfortunately. Somebody else, yeah. So
could you repeat what these proxy rules are and where they can?
There are no proxy rules. That's up to the games committee. They can say.
Okay, well, let me ask the question this way. What are the general guidelines for proxy and where are they used at? Some mentioned the armories, you mentioned state meet. Which meets are they available at? I'm just looking for reference.
When forget whether it was Cicero or anything else, we had a cadre of kids from the school. If somebody was supposed to be at the clerks and they needed them at the long jump to finish up, they sent somebody from the long jump, one of these volunteer kids, and sat in the clerk's tent in place of the person who was supposed to report, so they would not be overlooked. They would get their heat and lane assignments, and by the time they showed up, that was the service provided by the host.
Tommy?
Yeah.
Okay. My problem with all these rule changes is I am sure that they're going to be perfectly clear once I have the rule book in front of me. However, I now have to go to the coaches meeting and explain the rule changes. And I have to go to my association and explain the rule changes. And there are some, quite frankly, I don't understand because I don't have a book. For example, it says something about infractions at leaving the track on the straightaway. Fine, but what is it? I don't know what the rule is.
I was hoping that the rules were available statewide, but they're not. They've been published. They're out there. I know I proofread them, and it's my fault. I probably should have gone back in there and cut and pasted something where you could see the difference.
Because it's very hard to explain this to other people when you can't see the difference yourself.
Right.
I mean, I tried getting the rules online, I couldn't.
When do you have to do your meeting with your officials and all that? November?
14th?
Remember, our rule changes take place from December forward.
No, ours is in November.
Okay.
Early November.
As far as I know, I think the rule book is on sale now. I know that. I'm pretty sure. Because the publication date was October 1.
Yeah, well, I couldn't get it online, so.
Oh,
and like I
it's
say,
not
it's
online
just-
yet.
And this is every year. We get the rules changes and it's fine. Once I get the rule book, I can make sense out of them. Right now, I can't.
Yeah. And, maybe we should actually move this meeting up a couple weeks. We've done this traditionally because we used to do the clinics and everything else. But yeah, especially these things, they're simple little changes that do clarify. But again, you got to see them.
Oh, I know. I know there's nothing we're not going to understand.
The only major change in the rules, the track rule for 50 meters, and this thing about the jump off. That's the only significant things. Everything else is just smoothing things out.
I saw the rule book on, this is handicap. I saw the rule book on Amazon.
The 2025?
That's rule book.
That's 2024.
Huh?
That's last year's.
Yeah, it'll say 2025 on the front, not 2020.
Oh, 2025, this is 20. Okay.
24. Yeah, and there aren't that many,
You mentioned aligning the high school rules with the NCAA rules. And now that the NCAA has done away with Five Alive, did the
No,
consider doing away with Five Alive?
National Federation is allowing the choice based on conditions, giving the games committee flexibility. NCAA does their own thing. The NFHS is not trying to align their rules with people unless it makes sense for whatever happens in Idaho and whatever happens in New York, et cetera. So they're just defining what those terms mean. They're not saying you got to get rid of it. If you go in there with a field of 37 high jumpers, you might want to make quick choices to how you're going to run the event.
Hey, Tom or anybody here, just coming back to the service, ADA requirements, somebody help me out because I don't know what's there. You're talking about a doctor's note. If an athlete needs a guide animal, which...
No, it's not a doctor's note. I said Dr. Zayas, meaning a note from the executive director of New York State Public High Schools Athletic Association, giving them permission to use the service animal.
Okay, so if I bring a service animal, I go to compete, I go to do the high jump. Am I allowed to bring someone else to hold the animal while I actually compete and I just come back? Or does that animal have to sit by itself unattended? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know, because somebody's going to say, well, I need someone to hold my...
Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay.
But, if this is a service animal for the athlete and they need it and the coach is aware of that, they should go out of their way to get the ultimate authorization from the executive director of the New York State Public High Schools.
All right, no problem.
Service animals are allowed anywhere the public is allowed. And if the animal doesn't alter the fundamental nature of the activity, they're also allowed in the activities for safety. I'll copy the link and post it in the chat.
This is like I said, I had one about 15 years ago. But other than that, I've never had a service animal. I've had people. You know, guys and paraprofessionals, teacher aides and things like that. Actually, I have a former athlete who makes a living doing that down in New Jersey. She'll go to a cross-country meet and get 4 races in every weekend by guiding blind athletes and kids that are agitated. She calms them down, etc. Folks, anything else? And Sue, hopefully those books will be available quickly so that your anxieties can be addressed. I know I have the same thing setting this up. How do I explain something that's not in print?
I don't like not being able to answer the questions because the questions are going to come.
Yeah. And you know, it's one of those visual things. You have to read it and you'll see it.
Yep. Well, hopefully the rule books come before our meetings do.
Do you order them through the state association?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The state takes care of them. I just get the
I
box.
frequently I buy one ahead of time just so I'm ahead of the mark and can look it over.
I'll see if I can do that. I don't mind doing that.
As I always like to tell the coaches, it's the best $10.50 or whatever it is that you'll ever spend. You'll know what's going on, if nothing else. Well, folks, if there are no further questions, I appreciate you coming out and wish you all get outside today because it's beautiful here. I don't know about the other parts of the state, but it's gorgeous here right now. Todd, are you there?
No, I don't think Todd's there.
Okay, Bob's there.
Tom, on that service animal bit, I'm going to talk to Bob Zayas tomorrow, get some clarification from him, and try to get something out to everybody.
Was this just one time this happened? Sandra, was that just yours?
Yeah, I was yesterday at the Coaches Invitational. A parent showed up with the dog. It was posted in Sports U that no animals were allowed on the facility, on the school grounds. And I saw the dog and I see this parent, which I said, "What? Not supposed to have the dog." "Oh, it's a service animal." He proceeded to show me the card for the dog with the name. And I said, "You need to stay over there." I said, "You have a letter from the state, just like we do with inhalers and all that other stuff." He says, "No." I said, "Then the dog cannot be out on the field." And I left it like that, and I did not see the dog any place in the competition area. Nowhere near the kids. And that was the end of it. Nobody else, the coach didn't come to me or anything. That was the end of it.
I'm always amazed at cross-country meets how many dogs are out there. Like,
well, at Van Cortlandt, it's a big signs are out there. No dogs on the infield, on the playground, but they can go up to the dog park. But nobody reads the sign. I'm not challenging it.
I know that. I mean, this is everywhere. I mean.
Oh yeah.
The only thing with a service dog, though, and you would see that in the thing, is that they're supposed to be handled by the person who has the disability.
Yes, and they're supposed to be clearly labeled as a service dog.
Yeah, and I mean, if a person's got diabetes or has epilepsy or, that kind of thing, it's acceptable. But, it's supposed to be not handled by the parent. It should be handled by the handler. And usually, if there is a service dog, it's registered to the person with the disability.
Yep.
And that he did show me the card with the kid's name on it. However, the athlete was not with the dog.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right.
And the dog had a vest on. Didn't say service dog. I put the kibosh on it. You got to give me more than just show me a card, because that could have been anybody's puppy just because you have a dog. So I just put the kibosh. The parent didn't challenge it. He was polite. He kept the dog near the building, nowhere near the running, nowhere where anybody was running. So I
Tom,
tried to resolve, just going
you
forward,
can
I'm trying to find out. What?
Tom, you can buy those things online now that say that you have a service animal. New York City changed their law because what happened is everybody claimed their pet was emotional support animal. Well, I'm sorry to say, but every pet is an emotional support animal. And so they started bringing them into food stores, Broadway theaters. I have sat next to a person with a dog on his lap. And so New York City revised that law, and it now says if it's an emotional support animal, it must be in a carrying case. But nobody
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
enforces that law. So
It's just
you
not
get on
going
the
to
news
happen.
as
We're getting carried away here. This
Yeah.
is a very unique thing, and first of all, the dog's not going to be allowed in the jump off.
That's
So-
right. And they're not going to be allowed in the armory either, unless it really is a seeing eye dog. I
Yeah,
think
I know.
that much.
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for your time and efforts. I think this makes a big difference, beginning of the, especially in the beginning of the season for everyone.
Yeah, when you do get the rules, you'll see that it's pretty clear. Thank you all.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.